Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you, Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitrón. I'm here with Professor Dan Anderson. And we're touching base on martial arts and, you know, coming out of the pandemic, it's kind of hard for a lot of schools, and a lot of, I say, icon community schools are no longer around. And Professor Anderson is in the West Coast. I'm here in Texas, and look at the similarities that go on. How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I could use some lunch, but you know, aside from that, doing fine.
Let's touch base on COVID. What happened to the schools in your area, and your school in particular?
Oh boy, I tell you, the schools in my area got bit. And, you know, it's funny because it was the middle of March when the pandemic was officially declared. And then mid-May, our governor had, let's go back to March. Our governor declared a 2-week secure in place in Oregon, which actually ended up being longer. And so I made the pivot to Zoom really, really quickly. But, you know, in May is when she came out with phase 1 requirements. And when she came out with phase 1 requirements, one of the things that she stated was that Taekwondo, karate, and MMA schools could not be open because of the physical contact. And, you know, so instead of griping to the governor or any of her crew, you know, my first thought was, okay, let's take this tactically. And our governor, she's a professional politician. Well, what do professional politicians know? They know professional politics. Do they know martial arts? No, they don't know martial arts. So I took it upon myself to write a personal petition and basically educate her and her committee. You know, how can martial arts be practiced without contact and still being COVID safe, including outlining my safety protocols in the school. We sent that, and I got an hour back in I got an okay back in 3 hours, and that is, you're fine. So that's what we did.
So, Professor, tell me, once you got word back from the governor, what did you do? What was different?
Well, what was different was that I ended up taping off the mats in the school. And I don't know if you can see this in the background, but you notice little different outline colored mats and so forth. And then
sure.
little dots in the center. So what we've got is we've got taped off areas, 6.5 square feet. The dots in the center, kids, students go to the dots, we maintain the social distancing. So that was first. But the second thing was I had to get really creative as to, okay, how do we train, but we can't make contact? Now, with the kids, this was very easy, okay? You slide into technique games, attribute building games, etc. With the adults, it was a bit trickier. And I worked them more on solo exercises or kata. Luckily, I was trained in kata in the first karate style I did. So I was able to shift that way. But there was that on site. But then the other thing was going on Zoom. You know, luckily, there's a compatriot of mine down in San Francisco. His name is Brandon Beliso, and he went heavy into Zoom. And so when the governor had mentioned, okay, back in March, we have this 2-week secure in place, the first thing I did was I took a weekend, and it was almost like college cramming. I mean, I really crammed and test ran and so forth, how to run Zoom classes, so that when the secure in place order came, I just emailed all my people and said, okay, guys, here's the schedule. We're going online. And amazingly, I kept about 70% of my clientele. The parents, were really, really happy that I was quote unquote going the extra mile. And, you know, in my mind, I wasn't going the extra mile, man, I was saving my business. So that's basically what I did. And, you know, belt tests were conducted online. I actually rode my motorcycle and hand delivered belts instead of mailing them and that sort of thing. You know, so what I did is I jacked up the service level, and you know, that really helped quite a bit.
Here in Texas, it was a little bit different. You know, we went into a 14-day lockdown. Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to move. You can't do anything. And after the 14th day, all of a sudden, if you went outside, if you did this, all of a sudden you were ticketed. We had curfews. I mean, we were living in a war zone. If you, everything but the military in the corners that we had, right? And all of a sudden, nobody was going to the school. My school was closed. The businesses were closed. So I actually told the city. I said, "Listen, I'm losing my business. What are you all going to do about it?" I go, "Can I go do stuff and film it and put it on a YouTube channel that we have and start giving it out to the students to start working on?" You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, you can do that. And I said, you know, I have the Gloves Off podcast. I go, that's media, so I still have to go to the school. I mean, several times when we were filming here, you know, you had the police park outside and say, hey, you know, you're not going to be teaching anybody now. We're just doing this whole thing. But, you know, it got so outrageous here, Anderson, that folks that were washing their cars and past 10 minutes into the curfew inside their own yards were getting $4,000 tickets. I mean, this thing went nuts.
Ouch.
When we were able to reopen again, we were left with 4 students. And I said to myself, you know what? Let's look at this in a different battle. You know, I told my wife, and she teaches capoeira, and we, you know, we teach Savate and the Kempo, and as well as capoeira. And we said, hey, I'm going to go back into the notes. Just like I used to open the other schools when I was in Dallas, we have to do an open house.
Yeah.
Went back and I said, you know what? We're going to plan an open house. We did heavily marketing on that. We registered probably about 15 students that weekend.
Brilliant.
It kicked off from there. Many of the students that we had registered prior to the closing never came back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this, they took it like, you know, we do in a contractual agreement. I learned real quick a long time ago that if you do month by month, all of a sudden you'll be playing pocket pool by yourself in the corner trying to figure out what you're going to do.
You know, and it's funny. You know, I mentioned that, you know, 70% of my students stayed. Well, the guys who didn't stay were the monthlies, and so I instituted a policy change that nobody signs up for less than 6 months, and it's all on auto pay, et cetera. So I learned a lovely little financial lesson there. Now, you mentioned about almost like the military war zone. Luckily, that did not happen in Oregon. I think everybody was more jacked up about the protests in Portland and all the crazy stuff going there. I have had no problem with any of the authorities, with any of the city people. And it's funny because a follow-up to what you're talking about, you know, okay, how we handled with the COVID, mid-November, our governor, who I will be kind, she's a professional politician, and I disagree with how she's handling this. How's that? Is that nice? That's nice. She had issued another lockdown. And so what I did was, in a series of 6 emails, honest to Pete, 6 emails, I laid out what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're battling the collateral damage from the enforced isolation. I even went into making them right for not responding to me. So instead of crabbing about them, you know, you guys haven't sent me back any information. I sent a detailed list. This is probably why you haven't gotten back in touch with me. You're inundated with messages from small businesses. You've got the Restaurants Association suing you. This, that. And at the end, I included or you find my reasoning so compelling that you feel you do not need to answer in order to show your agreement with what I'm doing. I have a paper trail. After 6 emails, no answer, then I shut up. And it was one of those where, you know, my last message was, I am going to remain open unless specifically told not to. That's been since mid-November. Now, this Friday, we're going to be going back to, our county's going to be going back to extreme risk status, and I'm staying open. Why? Nobody's called me back and told me that I can't be open. And I found out from one of the jiu-jitsu schools that closed that OSHA, they do not come in the door. They do not call you and complain that you're open. They send you an email. Okay, no email, fair enough. And so until I actually get the word, I'm going to continue what I'm doing. I keep all my safety protocols in place. And if you guys want to talk about it, you'll have a very determined argument. I will not violate the law, and I won't even be, I'll be a representative of martial arts, and I will show respect, I will show manners, but I will also show intent and determination. And so we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely. No, here, you know, we continued in November here. Everybody started with the severities of cases went up and so on and so forth. But it's the fear that they've induced into people that's outrageous. And
yes,
that,
I totally agree with that. Yeah,
it's to the point that you have adults that are afraid to go outside. You have and then they wonder why their kids are acting that way. And you're like, you know, show some backbones. Where, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, really. Now the governor of Texas opened up everything. We're still open. Here, our kids, everybody's with masks. Everybody's in spaces. We have, like I told my wife, we have a limited number of students, and that's the end of the story. We'll open up another class, and we'll gather that class up to that specific number, and we'll take it from there. And that's all we've done, you know, and just continue moving forward. But there's a lot of schools that I know of that will never come back.
I think right now it ranges between 40 and 50% of all the martial arts schools in the country. And, you know, these guys, I think I would lump them into 2 categories. Now, this is without doing any research on my own, but what you've got is you've got the very, very small schools of the guys who have, you know, day jobs and so forth, and they had a small number of students anyway, or you had a bunch of the big guys who had overhead like crazy. You know, they're in a shopping mall. They've got the $2,500 to $3,000, you know, monthly rent. They have their teams, and, you know, I mean, these guys had really it beautifully put together until it was set up where no students could arrive. And of course, no students can arrive, no students pay. And now you've got this horrible overhead, and business is going wham, 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 out of business. And so I'm fortunate. I'm one of the ones who, you know, my mortgage is good. My students, I was utterly amazed, you know, because I mean, I was ready for the students to go, you know, online, virtual. No, not at all. But I had created a much better relationship with my guys than I would have ever guessed. Between you and me and everybody who's watching, I would have lost the bet. I would have bet not very many people stayed. And that bet I would have lost, and I happily would have lost that bet. But yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that unfortunately, you know, they're no longer in business, and who knows when the hysteria on this is going to lift.
And, you know, just like Savat, there's not that many schools of Savat anyway in the United States. You know, we were only 9. There's only 2 open, mine and one in Dallas. Everybody else is closed. Yeah. And there's a lot of instructors, like you said, those that had huge overheads that could not pay the rent, and those that had very few students that couldn't pay the rent, and they were taken underneath. And that's what happens. You know, I had a great instructor that opened up a brand new school in November prior to March, and all of a sudden went under, and it's incredible.
And all that money you set into it to set it up and everything.
And what happens is that you have a lot of students that really, when does the student, let's talk about loyalty. I know that you were a loyal student to your professors, those that taught you were loyal to them. Loyalty has changed amongst the students from the 70s to 80s, 90s, and now the present.
Don't even get me going on the change in the student base. Yeah, it's funny. There's a cultural thing, and there was I don't know how old you are. I'm 68. When I was raised up by my pop, it was okay. Hard work, respect, show your manners, loyalty to the team. I haven't followed baseball in 5,000 years, and my favorite team is still the Los Angeles Dodgers. Loyalty to the team, but martial arts these days have been relegated to the same status as soccer, baseball, full contact badminton. So the best efforts of the instructors to really imbue the values that martial arts give, they're battled by how the culture is at this point. Do people stick with things? No. Do people place importance on, they'll pay lip service, but do they really pay importance to manners, respect, determination, intent, and so forth, and loyalty? And the fascinating thing is that, unfortunately, this is the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. So as martial arts schools, we either veer left or veer right, depending on what the climate is. But yeah, when this hit, it's, there's a lot of people who are doing martial arts as a hobby, as a sport. They were doing martial arts, they were not being martial artists. And the gap between those two are incredibly wide. And so, and for the moment, I don't see it getting any better. The culture from when I was a kid as to the way it is now, night and day.
You're absolutely correct. I remember when we were growing up, our instructor didn't have to even say, he'll mention one time, and he'll say something like, in September 12th, we're going to be doing a demonstration. And in September 1st, you already knew that you had to practice for that demonstration and be at that demonstration. You know what I'm saying? Here, you have to send an email. Here, you have to send an email and a text to the mom, the dad, the dog, the goldfish, the grandmother. You know what I'm saying? And the guy's 30 years old.
and maybe he'll agree to do it, or maybe not.
Yeah, and the girlfriend, and you have to invite the girlfriend if he's of that age, and you're like,
Yep. Yeah, preaching to the choir here. Man.
And then they come out and Savat's a competition sport. It has that side to it, the ring. And I get
it does karate, yeah.
And you get folks coming in, and the first thing they want is, I want to fight in the ring. First, let's learn the basics. Then we can start seeing if you really have it, because if you don't even have the dedication to learn the basics, I'm not going to put you in danger going inside the ring when somebody's going to take your head off, So
yeah, it's funny. There's such a glorified view of combat sports. What they see, it's like MMA right now. What you see is these guys, and even the worst of the guys are in better condition than 98% of the people training, let alone the populace. Even the worst guys are tougher than 98% of the people who are training. But there's this glorified thing. So, these two guys go out, and this guy gets knocked out, and they look at the guy who got knocked out and say, yeah, the guy's a duck. I could do better than that. But they don't look at the amount of bag work. They don't look at the amount of scrimmaging or sparring they do. They don't look at the amount of conditioning. And, the glorification of it makes it look a lot simpler than it is. It's like armchair quarterbacks at a basketball game. You know, these guys are in the show because they're a lot better than a lot of these other guys, and they're a lot better than most. And even the bench warmers are better than a lot of the top collegiate guys because, boom, they made it. But, you know, yeah, you don't put them in the ring. You don't put them in karate matches before they're ready. And yeah, I'm very firm about, you know, you learn the basics. Bare minimum, let's learn how to protect yourself. And when I talk about protecting yourself, I talk about actual defense instead of defense being counter offense. You know, I was a small guy when I started, 14 years old, 105 pounds, thrown into a karate class. Now, in 1966, there was karate class. There wasn't the tiny tigers and the little dragons and the tater tots and all this. I mean, it was karate class. I was the littlest guy. And so, you know, I got bounced like a basketball. And instead of the concept of, okay, self-defense, you defend, and then boom, 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 you bash the guys. Well, all these guys were adults. So how about protecting the basics of protecting yourself? So if, let's say, if you got put into a corner, you don't do your own, you know, rope-a-dope and hope to hell they don't hit a vital spot. How about actually protecting? And this is all basics. This is something that's not, that you don't see in the ring or in the karate match, et cetera. You see a lot of the hitting, et cetera, but you don't see the defense. And a lot of times the defense is so subtle that you can't tell how many hours really went into it. So yeah, these guys want to come in and they want to battle and they want to do this and that. And the next thing you sit back and you shake your head and go, trust me, it's not like that. And then of course, the next thing they say is, well, have you seen Ip Man 4? It's like, please, 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 please. You know? So yeah, there's like, don't get me going on that. I have my own soapbox and my own megaphone. I'll be yelling all day.
You know, no, you're absolutely correct, and it happens everywhere else. And I think it separates, I guess, what we say, the men from the boys, you know, kind of thing, you know. And yep. And the schools matter, and the schools change different. And I tell folks, listen, what do you really want us to teach your child? Because if you want us to teach your child, I'm going to teach him just like I taught my son. Okay, right. And somewhere along the line, he's going to get yelled at, and he's going to get whacked around by somebody. Who's going to get hit if he doesn't pick up his hands. You know, yeah. I have a new T-shirt that says, and it says, "If your testicles have not dropped, Savat is not for you."
That's politically correct. That's a good PR.
Yeah. And I did it for the guys, and I said, hey man, you know, you're in here for a reason. Don't come in here and cry because you got popped in the face. You got popped in the face because you did not block. Pay attention.
Yeah, see, I'll be a little bit more politically correct, and I'll just tell them, well, this will put hair on your chest. You know.
You know,
I have too many parents to say the other one, but the hair on the chest, they like that one.
You know, and I got that because we're ordering a bulldog for my oldest daughter, and we're looking around, and the lady comes out and she goes, do you want a pet, or do you want a show, or do you want to just have a dog or to breed? And we're like, well, you know, show maybe, whatever. And he goes, well, if you're going to get a show at 1.5 years, you have to bring down the veterinarian certificate saying that his testicles dropped. And I'm like, for what? And he goes, because you can't breed it if the testicles haven't dropped, and you can't show them. And I'm like, man, that's what we need in the martial arts, you know.
Well, in Y2K, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. It's unfortunately, you know, it's funny. I think most of the parents, they want this for the kid. They want the toughness, they want the strength, they want the respect, etc. But, see if this jives with you. It seems like ever since Benjamin Spock came out with like the new parenting theories, spare the rod, spoil the child, it seems like about every 5 to 7 years, a new parenting fad comes out that isn't like, my grandfathers or your grandfathers, but it keeps changing the rules until what we have is we have parents who have had like several generations of incorrect data, unworkable data, false data, to where the parents these days, they mean best, but man, they are operating off of whatever conglomeration of the latest fad is. And with the martial arts teachers, at least we've got a bit of the gumption. We have to word it correctly, and we have to say it with confidence. We have to say it with a lot of friendliness and so forth. But to let them know that, well, if Johnny's hands are down and he gets popped in the beak, I'm with you on this. And yes, he got popped in the beak, and I really want him to be able to protect himself with the school bully because, the bullies are so protected, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then they side with you as to, again, how to put hair in their chest. But
you're absolutely correct.
So it's like they've got the right intent, but they've been fed so much Kool-Aid that child rearing is it's a backwards art now.
When probably, who took you to your first karate class? Was it you or was it your dad?
It's my mom. My mother. When I did my first karate class, I was in the Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force. And all we did was, we had uniforms and we marched and we studied airplanes and we marched some more. And then we went down and cleaned the barracks, and then we marched a lot. So I know marching forwards and backwards and sideways. But there was a guy there who was a captain, and he did karate. Now, remind you that this is back in 1966. So all we knew of karate at that point in time was James Coburn, coming up and chopping somebody on the shoulder, and he did the judo chop, boom, and the guy dropped. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is something I really want to do because I was a failed baseball player and I was a geek. My older brother, he was the fighter and he was the lover. And my next oldest brother, he was the brainiac. And my little sister, she was my little sister. So at that age, who pays attention to your little sister unless you're picking on her? But this would be really cool. And so my mom took me, and she's thinking, this is a 6-month fad. And Dave Starkey, the guy who introduced me to this class, he told me the time of his class. So I was even an hour late. I was there on time for his class. I missed the beginning class. But the teacher, who is very well known in the real deal world, Lauren Christensen, he was my first teacher as a green belt, right? He pulled a blue belt off to the side and said, well, show this kid something. And so that was my first lesson. My mother was the one who brought me. And at that point in time, I didn't know that we couldn't afford it, but I was excited about something finally. And 54 years later, I haven't quit. But my mom took me. My dad, they were split up, and my stepfather, he wasn't really all that interested in our side of the family, and we'll drop that right there. But so was my mom. She was the one that. And then after that, I walked to class. Because it was only about 1.5 miles away from class. And if it was raining, then I looked like a drowned rat, in the Pacific Northwest. It rained, So.
Most kids, like you said, he was a real deal back in that day. So they took you to the real deal.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying? Oh, and what I'm trying to get at is in some generations back, probably mine was probably be the last one of, where it's at, maybe the 80s, maybe, they will take you to the person that was the real deal of that town. Understand, that was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
They knew who was the real deal and who wasn't.
I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I totally got it. Yeah.
They heard, and it wasn't like today, take them over here because all the kids are over here because it's they give them pizza every Tuesday and every Friday they're gonna watch a movie. No. They're taking them because you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They knew who the person was and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And it sticks to you. You know, my dad took me to my uncle. I got my butt whipped at the age of 6. You know, a couple of kids in the playground beat the living cahoots out of me. The next day, my dad took me to my uncle. My uncle taught boxing and Cipote for the local club here for many years. Had many Golden Glove boxers here teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the way it started, you know. And I was with him for the longest time. And we moved around, and then you start looking for the real deal, those that really know how to. Then you go off to college and you look for the martial art instructors who are the real deal and start learning from them.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to learn.
Right.
And so you get into that mindset that you always want to learn from somebody that has, even though anybody can teach you something, you really want to learn from those that are it in that subject matter of the martial arts, right?
Right.
And that's what took you to Remy Presas and so on and so forth. And
well, yeah, my introduction to Professor Presas was, I've got a very long story that everybody's heard and is probably very tired of by now. So I'll keep this one fairly brief, but there's a friend of mine, Fred King, very good friend of mine, who used to have people in for seminars at his school all the time. And I was a karate jock and I was a national champion. And I was only interested in one thing, free fighting. And if it wasn't about free fighting, I wasn't interested. So, you know, if you have a Tai Chi master there, you know, the guy could have been the founder of Tai Chi and I wasn't interested. And keeps telling me about this professor guy. You got to meet this professor guy. You got to meet this professor guy. And I'm kind of like, yeah, right. I don't want to meet him. We go to a tournament and he and I are rooming and he's got Professor Remy rooming with us. Now, when you meet Professor Remy, one of the first things that strikes you is you can't understand it because his accent is thick and his English, it's not broken, but the grammatical structure is definitely not like US English. So anyway, and he's tagging along and I am doing everything I can to blow this guy off. I am not interested. I can't understand him. You know, it's like W.C. Fields, you know, go away, boy, you bother me. And, you know, well, but he was persistent. And so we're at intermission at this tournament and he's telling me about this attempted mugging in New York in the subway. And Danny, you grab my hand. And he wanted me to grab his wrist like this. And I don't know if I physically rolled my eyes. I know inwardly, spiritually, I'm kind of like, hang me now, please. Just find a rope, find a rafters, and kill me now. Well, anyway, so I grab him. And he executes this very simple semi-jujitsu, semi-aikido walk-away move, which breaks the grip out of the hand. But here was the interesting thing. You know, I was a national champion. I have been around the best fighters of the era. I have seen confidence. I have seen lack of confidence. I've seen blustery, let's fake the confidence. And he executes this move like it never occurred to him that it wouldn't work. I mean, this was above any confidence that I'd seen. And all of a sudden, man, boom, I spun on a dime. And I thought, oh, I gotta keep my eyes on this guy. So several months down the road, I attend a seminar of his, and I know that he was cultivating me because, you know, he was spreading modern arnis, and here I am, a national champion, and if a national champion's his student, he puts a PR-wise a feather in his cap. Okay. But at the same time, you know, he treated me like everybody else. He's very friendly and so forth. But the fascinating thing was that, okay, here was a tool, an implement that wasn't nunchakus, that wasn't the sai, that wasn't the 6-foot bow staff, that wasn't the sickles or the kama, you know, something that could translate over or transfer over to empty hand, or you turn the Coke bottle upside down back when it's made of glass, and you could still do the actions. And so the application I thought was amazing. The first thing. The second thing was the flow. And karate is a ballistic art. It is stop, start. It is explode, go, boom, 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 and so forth. And as you get older, the body wears out. Okay, it's unfortunately the body wears out, and you can only do this ballistic thing as long as you can do it. It's better to move into a smooth type of action. And this was Arnis. This was modern Arnis. And so just by his confidence, number one, but then the way he manhandled us was like he's working with a bunch of 5-year-olds. Was he going too fast? No. Was he overpowering us? No. Was he hitting us with cheap shots? No. It was like I was here and he was here. And finally, when I got to this point, he kind of goes, okay, now you're ready for the next echelon. A brief, funny little story. We're doing this drill. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened, but we're going ding, 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 boom, and I disarm him. And it's a cooperative, it's this fun little drill. And he looks at me and he goes, Danny, that was very good. But you forgot one thing. I am left-handed. The cane was in my right hand. He takes the stick, puts it in his left hand, and we start doing the drill again, and he takes me to school. I mean, he takes me to school. But it was in a friendly way. It was a kind way. He didn't, kick my ass, which I thought, oh boy, I'm in real trouble. But it was one of those where, hey, I'd elevated to a certain point. He goes, good. Now it's time to show further training to show that there are even higher degrees of skill. And this is the type of thing, when I look at the modern Arnis training and the Filipino martial arts training, that really endears me to this art. It's easier on the body. I'm 68 years old, and I'm not the double, triple kicker like I used to be, but I can move smoothly. And my body is not in pain. I don't hurt when I train. And I've seen a lot of very, very good karate people that end up amongst the walking wounded because they just plain overdid the ballistic stuff too long. So
Absolutely.
how's that for a long rant on why I did Arnis?
No, you're correct, and you have instructors that don't need to, how can I put it to you? Don't need to demonstrate their skills. They just induce them in a kind way.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps you humbly learning.
You see, that's the funny thing is he never had anything to prove. He never, ever taught like, I have something to prove. He always taught like, I have something to show. And then you cross hands with him and you find out why he has nothing to prove. It's kind of like, okay, he has nothing to prove. I have something to prove. I got to prove I got to train harder.
And that's, we've all, when you've been around greats, you have that feeling. When you've never been around greats, you don't know it.
Yep.
You don't know it. And there's a lot of people out there. I tell people this, every martial arts school is good. Depends on what you want.
Yeah.
If you want a martial art hobby for your child or for you just to go over there and do something that say that you do more, there's plenty of schools. Well, I'll recommend you many of them.
Mm-hmm.
You want schools that are going to take you in the ring, that's all their main concern about is being in the ring, boxing schools and MMA schools. I'll send you that way. Right now, at this point in time, I'm not taking anybody in the ring. The last person I took in the ring was in 2005.
Wow. Okay.
And it takes some out of you when you have a team and all of a sudden you're getting ready to take off at 2:00 and weigh-ins or 150 miles away, and I have to be there by 7:00, and you're waiting for them at 1:00 past midnight, and nobody shows up. And when you're calling everybody, no shows up, and all of a sudden Monday comes around. They go, "What happened to you guys?" "Oh, I was with my girlfriend. I was with this." "Yeah, it's enough of that." Call me. Call me when you're serious.
Yeah.
I was talking to a good brother of ours, Bram, and I said, I could write a book on all the excuses that we had for the competition. I've heard them all. The worst one is the cat. My girlfriend's grandmother's cat died, and we were looking for it. So if it died, where were you looking for it? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, really? You know, I've had mothers call me that we're going to kill their son because they're going to the Golden Gloves. The guy was a Marine. He had just left the Marines. He had just gotten back into town, wanted to go to the Golden Gloves, was training for us. And mom was calling and called the police, and we're going to kill the son. You're like, seriously? He was a Marine 9 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's it gets to you, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we cannot continue and pass it on.
Well, yeah, you know, the thing is like, you know, I'd mentioned earlier of, you know, that's the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. And
yeah,
my own opinion is that if you understand the nature of the beast that you're dealing with, you'll never be surprised. Now, running a commercial school, you take your customers as you get them. You take your clients as you get them. Notice I'm not saying students right at the moment, but you take your customers and clients as you get them, and hopefully you can mold them to your way. And you know, one of the things that I find, and it's interesting because I've had this school for 36 years in Gresham, and I've gotten to the point where my school is not a knucklehead magnet. You know, I don't get the guys coming in and either challenging me or challenging the way that I teach, or. Now, I don't, you know, I don't get the hard guys, you know, because the hard guys, they can go into the jiu-jitsu or they can go to Team Quest in Portland and they can do the mixed martial arts stuff there. You know, I get basically people who that want to train or they want their kids to get better. And like that, you know, I can't say that I'm, you know, 100% traditional hardcore martial arts because that doesn't sell anymore. You know, all they think of when they see traditional hardcore martial arts, they'll go to YouTube and they'll watch Cobra Kai, and they'll watch the bad guy in Cobra Kai, and it's kind of, I don't want that for my kid. And it's like, guys, you can't take the TV show and figure that is the same thing as either hard training or good, strong discipline. So I work it differently. And so far, it works out well. I've got the manners that I want. I've got the respect that I want. And it really showed when the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit, the majority of my guys stuck, and it's like, holy smokes, I must be doing something right. So yeah, there's a school out there for everybody, you know?
Absolutely. It's just, you're absolutely correct on that sense. You know, we don't have the knuckleheads coming back anymore over here. We have those that want to train, and you can see in the three different arts, from capoeira, from kempo to so on. They're all training, and they're all training hard, and they're all learning, each one in their own trajectory. They're not mixed together, whatnot. Each one is kept aside from each other. Mm-hmm. And the Sabat, you kind of get a little bit more of those that are a little bit more, you know, they're knuckle dusters, those that want to become somewhat bone rollers in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. You get Kempo guys, you get the mature adult that wants to learn self-defense, you know, because I teach a Parker base.
Okay.
And,
so, hey, I was going to ask you that. There's several Kempos out there, but yeah, you teach Mr. Parker's. Yeah, good.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, I grew up with it. You know, at 17, I was introduced to Keith C., which was one of.
Oh yeah.
You know, so. Yeah, he was my teacher. So.
Sweet.
So that's where it was. That's how it went up. So, and so you can't teach like you were taught. So you have to teach you have to teach a little bit different, but they understand where it's going. You know, we have Grandmaster Huck Planus come out here periodically and keep an eye on us, and kind of, you guys are doing this wrong.
Oh, good man. Good man.
He's, you know, to me, he's the best there is, you know, so on the Kempo side, and actually his family. But, you know, you've known people like this for 20 plus years. You know, I've known, I'm 52, started Kempo at 17.
You're a kid.
Starting at 17, that's some 30 years plus.
You're a child.
But this school here has been here since '88, so
good.
Still here. My uncle and my father used to teach out of here, and it's just when we moved back in 2000, we kept on going with it. So it's been growing. So it's had its ups and downs. It's had its different cultures of mentalities, but overall we produce good citizens in Laredo. That's what it's all about.
Bingo. Good.
It's all about. And this past weekend we don't have that many kids, but all the kids that we have, they're all honor roll. And that's what I told my wife, and I go, we can't beat that.
Right.
As long as the grades are going up, and now they're all honor roll. They started with C's, now they're A's, now they're B's, they're A's, D's, now they're B's and A's. Hey, you can't beat that. We're doing something.
What you're doing is you're using the discipline to create an impact in the community. And, it's like I've had students who have, students who have made it to black belt. I've had other students not make it to black belt. But the next thing I hear is, this kid's a doctor, that kid's an engineer, this kid's a lawyer. And always the parents come back and go, well, an integral part was the training that they did because they got the discipline. I've got a student right now. I hate to say former student. I refuse to say former student, but I've known her since she was 5, and she was never a curriculum junkie. So it was like, okay, what do you know for green belt? Okay, well, get out there and spar. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so how do you do the 3 different sticks and a wallies? I don't know. Here, let's put a stick in your hand. Okay, let's go. And her, in fact, she'll be coming home. She's 1 year into her surgical residency down in California, and I'll be promoting her to black belt when she comes up in May. But the impact, that's the key thing. It's like, what are they going to do with their lives? I learned a long time ago that there aren't that many nuts in martial arts. I'm a nut. You're a nut. We stick with it. This is a driving force. This is something that we do because we utterly love it. And others, it is a phase in their life. So the big thing is that, okay, good. How can we impact them? How can we impact the community? Because when we impact them, we impact the community. Absolutely. And we have, and with Ashley, this one student, she wants to be a surgeon, but she also wants to be a surgeon who is in communication with her patients. So she doesn't want to be a carpenter. You go in, you cut and you saw and so forth. You never see the patient. You never care about them. You just rake in the bucks. And she's all about, good, this is what I want to do. And she even told me that that when they were taking the exams to do the surgical residency, right, other friends of hers who were in college were saying, well, if I don't make it here, I can go into this profession, I can go into that, part of medicine. And she's going, no, if I fail this exam, I'm taking it again. This is what I want to do. Goal setting, going for the goal. I mean, I don't know how much more proud one can be like that. And with your guys, bam, all their grades, boom, 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 they're moving up. Man, that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I told her, and I was talking to her, and I said, for a long time, kids, if it was somebody's brother, would come inside the school for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I would say in the last 8 years here, kids have really started becoming a focus of the school. We had a kids class all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Before that, it was somebody's brother, somebody's kid, somebody. You know what I mean? The way it goes.
Yep.
And he stuck with it. We've had a couple of them that did that. In fact, this past weekend, I had one that started with me in '92 in Irving, Texas. He was a freshman. He graduated, got into stuff, and now he has his own company. They check the gasoline pumps or whatever of all the different stores in South Texas. And he says, hey, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I have here. Are you going to be around, Professor? I go, I'm right here. He goes, can I see you? He came in here, hugged me, everything else, and kept on going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody. And then you have the other one. Every Christmas, all of a sudden you get this from Korea or from whatnot, and all of a sudden he's now a full bird. You know what I'm saying? in the air. You know what? And so you're like, we have a couple of those they're very proud, you know. So
Yeah, absolutely.
That went off into the armed services. They gave their life because they're lifers, and you know, now all of a sudden, before their title, you see lieutenant commander or commander or lieutenant colonel, and you start seeing, you say, okay, we did something right.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Yep, very much so.
So, you know, it's great to see that there's others out there that kind of have their own heart pounding for the martial arts moving forward, like yourself and others out there.
Thank you.
I want, you know, God bless you. God bless your school, for your school to continue doing prosper and be safe in this pandemic that's going, you know, whichever form and fashion, and make sure that everybody stays safe.
Yep, that's exactly
and we'll do
what
it again.
I'm
We can talk about later on. And later on, we'll talk about tournament fighting or what happens. But you know, we'll come back and touch base.
Oh my God, have I got all sorts of stuff on that? My goodness, you won't shut me up.
We should literally write a book on all the funny stuff that happens without putting any names, and maybe have it out there so when students can read it and it goes, "Hey man, that was actually me. They didn't put my name."
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All righty. Until next time, much peace.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You betcha.